come state? We did too. Jeanette and I have been kind of away because we are now, I'm doing some tutoring at the public school with the Spanish kids to learn French. So we decided to, can this be, okay, it's kind of invading. So we attended the Spanish church here in Kingston. Yeah, there is a Spanish church here in Kingston. So to upgrade my Spanish and to, yeah, voilà, that's what. So it's kind of weird to sing in English after all those months. Well, I have a very good friend in Toronto. He's a mechanic and car dealership, used car. And he sold me many cars so far because I truly trust him. The last car he sold me is a Subaru. Great car, until you change the spark plugs. Oh, this is something else. Thank God, I didn't do it. Pastor Omar Alvarez did the job. And he told me, say, I pray a lot for patience. Oh, you should see that. There's like 2 inches to change the spark plug in the coil pack. It's just like you have to lift up the motor. At a certain point, I say, I'm not sure my friend in Toronto is still a friend because I'm not sure he sold me a friendly car. But now it's fixed and it's going well and we really truly enjoy it, you know. But just to say, sometime in life we are challenged. Am I the only one to experience that? I guess not. I guess not. Thank you for responding. So, and I love this scripture in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1, which Paul says, we never give up. You know, if I would be the mechanic on that Subaru, I would give up. But this dear pastor didn't give up. And what a great example. And in life, too many times I did give up. But we need to learn to not give up. You know, it's not something that is there all by itself. So if we turn to James chapter 1, we already read it. I was stuck with a few words. I'll read from the New Living Translations. Dear brothers and sisters, so much affection there in those words. Whenever trouble comes your way, whenever trouble come your way, we don't want those moments. They're not welcome normally at home, those whenever trouble comes your way. But so often they are uninvited guests. They just come to the wrong time, at the wrong address, and it's just like, oh, you know, why? I don't, most of all the people, and all of the people I met, it's always you want to get out of the trouble as fast as possible. Don't you agree with them?
Yes.
Let me know if you agree with me. And here, as a pastor, I tell the people, I say, it's not getting out that is important. It's the process through it that you will learn something. No one enjoyed listening to that. They all want to be at the other end of the line, you know, with the trouble away. But this is the way it is. And so here James, the author, James, was a respected religious leader in Jerusalem and a devoted and just man, according to some fathers' writing. And he worked hard, apparently, to keep good relationship with the Judaism people, those Jews that were not converted to the Messiah, Jesus. And so, to whom did James wrote this letter? James wrote the book of James, to the Jewish people not living in Israel, but in Lebanon, Syria, Middle East, and those areas over there. So it's those people, and how life was for these people. Well, back then, most of the people didn't own land. You have large landowner outside of Israel. And a lot of people were some people were business people doing import, export. Most of the people were poor. Most of the people had to work for someone else. Most of the people didn't own anything and were probably happy. I'm not sure about that, but anyway. This is the context of these people over here. So he's talking to them, and their social conditions was not the greatest. Let's put it this way. So the letter of James is not like the letter of Paul to the Roman, which is a beautiful letter of theology. This one is more a pastoral letter with exhortation and encouragement. And I think we are living in a day and age where we need those encouragement and exhortations with this. The book of letter of James basically talks about knowing God better to serve Him, chapter 1, verses 5. He wants to encourage his people to say, like, listen, life is not always easy, but you have to learn to know God better if you want to serve Him. The more you know Him, the better you'll serve Him. And also, realize one thing, wisdom only comes from God. It's nice to have some knowledge, but if you don't have wisdom to apply knowledge, your life won't go that great. See in chapter 1, verses 5. And it says, all good things comes from God. 1:17. All good things comes from God. It cannot come from other people than God. So that's usually reminding them. And we see in chapter 2, verses 19, that there's only one God, as our brother mentioned, with Trinity, which is a concept that is not always easy to understand, but as we're growing in maturity as a Christian, we kind of understand a little bit more as it goes. And also about his eschatology, it said God will judge at the end. So just feel free, don't worry. There seems to be a lot of injustice, but God at the end is a great judge. So he talks about trials and tribulation. Dear brothers, whenever trials and tribulations knock to your door, there's a song that goes this way. I have decided to, it says to follow God. But I kind of change it to say, I have decided to be joyful. I have decided to be joyful when it goes well and when it doesn't go well. I have decided to be joyful. This is what James is telling them to these brothers. Say, when it's tough, learn to say, to be joyful, because this is what God wants you to. The Greek word for trials is peirasmos, which means like exam day at school. You know, that's a trial. Asianet just went through it yesterday. Exam day at school. This is the way we have to understand trials in this book over here. And in Greek it says, be very happy. Well, if we put your feet in the shoes of an unsaved person, and tell them, when trials come, I want you to be very happy. And tell me how they will respond to you. Tell me, what could you expect as an answer?
Crazy?
Are you crazy? Yeah, exactly. That right on, you know. People will look at you like something doesn't go very right with you. But this is the way it is. We never know when sickness, we never know when job loss. I was listening to a U.S. military who want to live all his life as working on a boat. And because of his diabetes, he had to resign. He had to resign. So, you know, what a disappointment when you get prepared years with one goal in mind, and then finally, there it is, and you had to let go. That must be very difficult. But the purpose over here, according to James, is like God used trials, tribulations, to develop us, to help us to have our relationship with Him stronger. That is key in the Christian life, relationship. And through the trials and tribulations, we're kind of turned to God and say, you're still in charge. I believe that. I wish it would not be the way it is, but I believe that what is happening to me right now will be useful in your hands to turn it to better, and better me, make me better. The normal reaction could be also discouragement. And I almost use this text here that we will turn together to Deuteronomy chapter 11. Deuteronomy chapter 11. I almost use that text, but I decided to bring it a little bit differently. Deuteronomy chapter 11. Let me know when you're there. I'll give you time. It's in the Old Testament, so it's not like familiar as the New Testament. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses, focus 1 and 2. It starts this way, verses 1. You must love God, your God. You must love your God. And we know the verses, with all your heart, first, the heart. With all your soul, with all your whatever is inside of you. Mind is not first. The heart is first. Apparently there are some cells in the heart that are memory cells also. I don't want to go there, but it's very interesting. The heart language. You must first love God. But they had a problem in verses 2. Listen. I am not talking now to your children who have never experienced the discipline of the Lord. And when Israel went into the promised land, those who experienced God's work as opening the seas and whatsoever, they experienced God. But the next generation, they knew God. They heard about God, but they never experienced in a personal way God. So he said, it's very interesting to say, you might be disappointed with your child, but you still have to love God. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verses 18 goes this way. Whatever happened to you, give thanks to the Lord. And if we hook that to James chapter 1 verses 2, whenever trouble came to you, whatever happened to you, you see the connections here? Whatever happened to you, good or bad, give thanks to the Lord. Whatever happened that could very discourage you in the life of your children, give thanks to the Lord. Keep loving Him. Because it's very easy, and I know because I did experience it. One of my daughters got married and we were uninvited. It was very, 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 very difficult. Just like very difficult. And for the first 4 to 6 months after that, if you would come to me, I would say, I would not be very joyful. You know, it was hurtful. And it kind of paralyzed me. It kind of drained my energy. But God didn't spoke to the heart of my child, that child, yet in the way she knows about God, but maybe God didn't spoke to her heart as God spoke to my heart when I was 23. You see, some situation in life could be very discouraging, paralyzing you, but God said, keep loving me. The devil wants to paralyze us, wants to use those difficult circumstances to put us down, to make us unuseful, to make us like dead, zombie. But God says over here, I didn't talk to your child yet, but you know me, keep loving me. Powerful. Endurance. I have a good news for you, I'm almost done. Endurance. The opposite of endurance, what do you think would be the opposite of endurance? It's up to you, please, react. What's the opposite of endurance?
Give up. Giving up.
Give up.
Fail. Fail. I don't know.
Fail.
Fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Discouragement is the opposite of endurance. And we live in a world where we could be so easily, this world in which we live is very good to discourage us. The news sometimes, even some people that give some prophecies could be very discouraging. Some people, 2024 would be the worst year of your life probably. So there's a lot of things to discourage us, but we have to endure. Keep loving me, God says. A definition of endurance goes this way. Endurance is experiencing the power of God's love by rejoicing in trials and tribulations. Trials and tribulations, experience God's love through those difficult moments. Experiencing God's love. Someone who's doing some race, anyone enjoy doing race over here? I see one person over there, my own son. Those who do a race, I saw Brian with Greg Gary doing a race one day, and when Greg came, he was the first one to finish, or the second one. For him to be the second is lose. So anyway, you see his mind. He arrived at the end of the race and he collapsed on the floor. It takes a lot of stamina to endure a race. So, spiritually speaking, the strength that comes from rejoicing whatever happens to us. Do you understand that? The strength comes by rejoicing in whatever happened to us. Think about it. If you don't rejoice in the midst of the trials, will you feel stronger? No, not at all. We really feel stronger as we are rejoicing, knowing that God is in charge. God has the power to bring us to the other side, and we rejoice. And I cannot say I've been always successful. I remember the first church I pastored, I was green, not green, but green. And we did the CEF, Child Evangelism Fellowship, 5 days club. And we were in a private, une cour, comment on dit, une cour d'une personne?
Backyard.
A backyard club. We did that. Everything was beautiful, first day. Then there is a lady, a teacher from the public school who knows everything, and she came over here and she said, you cannot brainwash those kids. It was not her business. It was not her property. She had nothing to do over there. She really intimidated me to the point that it didn't went well for that week. It was terrible. I was unsuccessful. And I feel shameful about that, Another time also, it's in Cotonou, Benin, Africa. We just landed over there with 25-hour boxes. And they open up, all those people working with the policemen say, open up the box. And I panicked because it was done in so disarray, totally unorganized. And I say, what will happen to me? They will take this. Pastor, give me this. I'd like to have this, Pastor. I need it. I don't have it. All those stories. And I didn't react very well. I look back and I say, oh, next time I'll just relax. Next time never came, you know, because it's another experience. But I want to share with you a good experience in Cochrane, Salt Sea, Quetico, Cotonou, Cochrane. And in Cochrane in 1998, or 99, there was a fire and in the manse. So we became homeless, but I didn't have time to think about being homeless. We no home. Bunch of kids, like 6 or 6 in that time. Brian was not born. And 2 weeks later, I realized one thing. I didn't even have time to worry about where to have my family to live. Somebody offered us an apartment to take care of us. 2 weeks after that, I said, I didn't have to worry. I didn't have time to worry. I didn't think about worrying. And I have to say that I was rejoicing when I saw the fire, because I remember James chapter 1 verses 2. Whatever happened, whenever problem come to you, just rejoice. You know, I kind of got it at that moment. And I rejoiced and I said, okay, who cares? It's okay with me. And everything was provided. It took me 2 weeks to realize that I could really be afraid. I could really shake in my shoes, wondering what would happen with my family, where we would sleep, be homeless, just think about it, you know. I didn't have to, because I rejoiced in that situation. It didn't make any sense, you know, to rejoice. But I did rejoice. I said, who cares? And they said, Pastor, you're losing a lot of stuff. I said, it's 25 years old, it's okay with me. It's all old anyway. We didn't have any insurance. God took care of everything I would say, in a better way than if I would be insured even. It's amazing. It's amazing what took place. So you see, that was a good point, but not always good. We're on a learning curve, you see. So, okay, I'll cut short. What animals could be a nice illustrations of endurance? They use it in the desert to travel some goods.
Camels.
The camel. Why did you say the camel versus endurance?
They don't need water.
Yes, he's got some reserve. He's got some reserve. Endurance. He knows that, you know, it has to be there for many days without any water. So he's got some reserve. And this is endurance. For us, it's the same thing. Endurance is like knowing that we have a reserve in the Lord. You know, He's a fountain of fresh water where we have access all the time. And as we go to those living water, John chapter 6, I think, as we go to this living water, we are cultivating relationship. Christianity is not like the other religion. It's part of a religion, but in reality it's not a religion. It's a relationship. And trials and tribulations in God's hands is a tool to help us deepening our relationship with Him. And that makes it so wonderful. And that's why we should rejoice when it comes, because we know we will become a better person through those trials and tribulations. You know, after all, what is the gospel before we go to the Lord's table? The gospel is a relationship established by God. He's the aggressor. He's the one who invaded the space, and we benefit from what He did to us. God did it first. He loved us first. I couldn't do it myself. I can do it. I can save myself. My children have to hear the Word of God. They have to establish that relationship give permission to God to establish a relationship with them. You know, and when we experience God's love, when we realize the love that God asked to do what He did, sending His own begotten Son to die on our behalf on the cross, when that love implodes in us, when we get it, it sparks a relationship between Him and us that no one can understand. It's so wonderful. And before we come to the Lord's table, I think it's a good thing to just meditate a little bit on that sparks that came one day in our life that established and start this wonderful relationship with Him.